Hello and welcome to Celestial Divide. Today I'll take you through a high level of what Celestial Divide does and just kind of review what the solutions are that you're going to be receiving when working with this software. The three biggest things are it's going to tell you how to compensate an individual when multiple people want the same asset. So if you have two or more people bidding for one thing, then you're going to have a little bit of jealousy in terms of how much extra value was given to the person who is ultimately awarded with the item, and how you compensate that across all the parties is going to be very important. So we'll touch on that. The other thing that Celestial Divide is going to help you with is determine what to sell. So if everybody wants everything and hasn't really decided what to sell, then it's going to be very helpful in that case as well. Just looking at the aggregate demand across all the parties and determining what's the lowest demanded item and seeing if we can't sell that. And if not that, then maybe a combination of items as well. Finally, it's just accounting, right? If it was the simplest estate ever and we're just using this for accounting, it's going to give you that answer right off the top. You can feel confident that in any case, if you're using this software, then you're going to get a great answer and can go ahead and use it for communication purposes and simplifying that process as well. It's just really helpful in terms of gathering the unknowns. This division process traditionally has just kind of relied on appraisals, but as we all know, people have their own view as to what something's worth. For me, I wouldn't spend $40,000 on a handbag, but if it has a certain name on it, somebody else might. Yeah, we'll just kind of get into it and see what you guys think. From here, you can see the basic page. We're on Celestial Divide. We're looking at it as a professional right now. We're under the Aretha Franklin estate. So let's put some respect on it and see what we can get. We have the Trusted Professional Network in case anybody wanted to reach out or you had your own Rolodex of professionals that you wanted to make available to your clients. You can also add assets. So of course, going through this demo, I have everything set up already. So we're already in the bidding phase and we're not able to add them right now. You traditionally can. You can add estate cash. This is just going to be things that have already been sold off if you're jumping into this midway and there's some cash in the bank that can be used. You can add liabilities. So, in her case, there may have been some back taxes. I'm not really a wizard on that history, but a quick little Google search kind of suggested there might be. You can also view some assets. This is going to let you see everything that we have here. So you can see what's been either imported. If you want, you can import assets, or you can do them manually one at a time. Once you have them in here, you are typically able to click in, view what's going on, a good faith estimate, edit if needed, delete if needed, and organize. You can also kind of view the different columns that might be helpful for how you want to shuffle things over time. One of the key things that we have in here is just a default sales price. So you're going to select a type of asset as you input them. They're going to be assigned a discount, and that's just to say like, hey, if we didn't have an appraisal or kind of this is what you would walk out of the car dealership in cash if you were to drop that off at the car dealer. There is a floor price associated with each one of these asset types, and so that can be very helpful in terms of generating cash if there isn't enough cash to split things fairly in the first place. The bidding progress, you're going to want to use this page in case you need to prompt anyone to get after it, to start placing their bids. The state division settings, this is in case you need to set up any rules and accesses. Kind of thinking of it more as a professional or as an executor of an estate, what you would like each user role to be able to do. Maybe you want other people to be able to add assets or edit bids. Maybe you want to be able to access their profile and make bids on their behalf. However that looks like, this is really where you would set up those settings. The beneficiary split profile, this is very helpful in terms of, our default is assuming that it's going to be split equally, but if that is not the case in a trust, or if you're a divorce attorney using this only on behalf of your own client, you can use it for some scenario simulations where maybe you're putting the edge in your client's side. Disparity tolerance is really meant for the team players. So say we're putting bids out here. These aren't the most educated bids. They aren't super well thought out. If it was 10% higher, that'd be fine by me. I don't really care. If you're getting feedback like that from the people that you're working with, and they're really just looking to keep assets within the family, within the estate, within the divorces, whatever it may be, then you're certainly able to accommodate that by sliding it up. So this would simply say if I'm entitled to 100,000 and I've set this to 12%, that means I'm okay with another person entitled to 100,000 getting 112,000 in my view now. So that is the disparity slider. It really allows for a little bit of jealousy, if you want to call it that. Right now our default is 0, so everyone is happiest with what they receive. So it will be equal to or greater from my point of view whenever I get the asset split up, and each individual person will see it that way as well. Next, let's take a look at what the users are going to see, and you can understand how the system works for bidding. So here we are clicking into beneficiary 1. Let's log in as user. And of course, they would fill in their name and email address here. This is just a sample. And we're able to take a look at the meat potatoes here. They are given the opportunity to do their own bidding. So they might see music catalog and think that appraisal price is vastly undervalued. I actually believe that her music catalog is worth $48 million. The present value of royalties. Anytime you have future cash flows, whether it's spousal support, royalties coming through in the future, you're going to want to take a present value calculation. This is much more like an economic balance sheet if you want to look at it from a CFA point of view. So you're going to take and capture all those present values of future cash flows that are going to be negotiated on. So in this case, if they're not really too concerned about future cash flows, maybe they discount it more. The beach house, maybe they have some great memories there. Their Bloomfield home, wonderful. Downtown condo, you can always click on do not want. Now, if this is more of a contentious setting, you might want to always place like a fair market value bid on there, just so that you are compensated. But you don't want to be too aggressive, because if you go over, you're most likely going to be assigned the asset. Maybe she has some furs, maybe a Mercedes in there. Maybe there's some designer furniture, art sculptures, Steinway piano. I'm sure they'd want to keep that. Maybe this was in a music video, and maybe they just don't care about that home theater system. They can certainly do that. Click finalize there on the right. Usually there's a timer here for about 1 minute, just allowing somebody to go back and forth. We'll go through this a few more times and see what makes the cut. Aretha Franklin is right there. Here's beneficiary 2. Let's just try and mentally picture a new person this time. Maybe they feel like all the fair market values that have been placed are the fair market value. Who am I to say any different? They might just want to select nearly 100% or 99%. And even if they were to just click finalize bids, is just going to accept the default answers there in the first. Let's move on to the third beneficiary. Now we're starting as the third beneficiary in the Franklin estate. Really, what you'll notice is that there is a high value asset that probably can't be assigned to any individual. In this case, we've said that it's indivisible. Most businesses, probably a music catalog, could be divisible, but what you'll see here is that it's too large to assign to one individual. What is still helpful about Celestial Divide is these premiums that people are placing on assets that are wanted are going to still come back and feed back into the system. And if they aren't receiving one of these items, they will be compensated for the amount that they're jealous of the other beneficiary who has received it. And most likely that compensation will be split across multiple beneficiaries, as well as discounted for the person who actually receives it. So there's some complicated accounting that wouldn't be too friendly to try and do on your own. The nice thing about the system is it's really maximizing the value to the parties involved in using the software and ensuring that nobody's jealous of each other. And so that is really the key in terms of getting this done, getting it done efficiently so that you're not getting in the way and doing all this back and forth. If someone doesn't like the way things are split up, you're easily able to point back to this and say, hey, here's the bid that you placed on it. If we associate that with what they got and do the same with what you have, we can clearly see that you came out better. So I'm not sure if there was an issue here or if you weren't telling the truth when you entered the data. It's really important that people take it seriously when they first enter the data. As you know, bad information in, bad information out, and so this is really going to optimize. It's best if you use it with a highest and best bid mentality in the first place. If you're kind of negotiating with one another, you can bluff each other beforehand and just say, hey, I really want that house. And you're going to have to be able to place a bid in here that you believe is representative of that. But if you're bluffing and you just want to be compensated for that house, you're going to want to be sure that you don't place too high of a bid, because you might end up with a house if they go under that. If they did go higher as a result of your bluff, then you will be compensated, and so it will work as that negotiation. And then, of course, with multiple assets, as you see before you, it can get really complicated on the accounting front very quickly. But that's the point of the software, to get that communication done quickly and efficiently and with the right accounting done on your behalf. Here we'll get into beneficiary 4. We'll take a quick look at the music catalog again, how they're feeling about each one of these assets. It is important. Of course, it's important to them, and they should take their time and give some mindful consideration to it. But for you in this video, I'm sure it is just a matter of watching me click through. Now, you don't need to worry if you've added an asset like the home theater system here below that nobody actually wanted. That's perfectly fine. The system's going to just say, hey, it's going to sell, and it's going to go back to that default floor list. The other item that you guys are going to want to look for is the income information. If you enter it here, you're going to get some good feedback on those default entries, particularly with regard to Roth IRAs or traditional IRAs. So if you're doing estate planning and you do have different children in different tax brackets, filling out this information is going to be really helpful. You can click finalize bids. The defaults will be where they should be, and you'll be able to optimize in a tax efficient way for those clients at that time. You can also get into financial preferences, whether they avoid risk, they're comfortable with it, and then you are also able to enter external cash on here before the bidding has started. At this time, I don't have that set up, but very important in case somebody's planning on doing a cash out refi or getting a new mortgage on the house, or just bringing the external money to the table to buy out dad's business. Whatever it may be, bringing in the external cash is very important so that the system knows one individual is able to be assigned that asset and their cash is then dispersed to the other parties, and keeps that all in mind. Additionally, before you get into the bidding process, you can pre-allocate. So if someone has created a trust and already knows which kid deserves what, you can pre-allocate, which can be really important for real property or personal property memorandums. Now that we're done bidding, we'll hop into the home and we'll stop impersonating as well, get back to the Aretha Franklin estate here. And what we're going to want to do is hit Run Solver. So this is required by the person in charge of the estate or the divorce to confirm that everything's been input. Nobody needs to redo their bidding, and now we're able to start the solver. You can see with the Franklin estate, it's pretty quick. I did make it kind of impossible to solve with that music catalog, so we do have quite a bit of cash to go around. Let's take a look at what those results look like. Sorry, my internet's running a little slow right now. We'll let that catch up. Okay, so here we are. We're taking a look at the results of this estate. We see an extra value added of 11.2%. That's simply taking a look at the minimum value of all these assets if we were to sell them all, compared to if we were able to assign them to a person who had bid the highest for each one of them, which gives us the minimum range if we sold everything to third parties versus the maximum range if we were able to keep everything within the household to the actual achieved amount. We can then just kind of take a look at that range figure of 15 million, the amount that we captured out of this, which is the actual minus the minimum, and take a division of that. We were able to add 11.2%. All the inheritance constraints have been satisfied here, meaning that everyone is happiest with their share. That is a key to this whole negotiation process. Here is a nice matrix that is always important to look at and appreciate in the very least. This is comparing each person's point of view of what they've received compared to other members of the party. So beneficiary 1 here looks across at what they received, and this is on a value per percentage of the estate basis. They've received $371,000 per percent of what they were entitled to. So you could simply, in this case, multiply that by 25 to get their total value because they have 25%. But beneficiary 1 views that at 371. They see beneficiary 2 as having received 350. Beneficiary 3 has received 362. Beneficiary 4 has received 358 from their point of view. However, as we go down to beneficiary 2, we can see that they have a different perspective. They've received 358, while others have received 355, 357, and 358, 870 again. So we can see that while one other person was equal with them, the other two people look a little foolish compared to beneficiary 2 from their own perspective, ensuring that everyone is happy with what they received. As we scroll down, we can see the assignments, asset allocations for beneficiary 1. They received the house, the diamond necklace, the grand piano, art sculpture. You're also able to see percentage allocated in case it is this divisible asset, the good faith estimate, the effective sales price, what the other bids were on it, as well as what they personally valued it at. If something needs to be sold off, like that music catalog, you can see how much of that was sold and attributed to them as well. We can then see how much they received without cash or debt, with the cash, and the total value. We can also see the achievement from each individual's perspective. The achievement in this case is 137% of their own personal minimum, meaning that if they didn't have anyone else in this household to work with and simply sold off the assets that they didn't want to keep and just kept the ones that they did, they've done 137% better, or I should say 37.93% better than if they didn't have any other parties in the estate to work with. And so they are quite happy with this solution. Next, we see beneficiary 2 receiving royalties and cash. It goes on and on for each one of these people, explaining what they've received and their catalog. A very key and important piece is down here. We see what assets or liabilities have been paid off. This is going to be funded by state cash or were items sold off to make this funding possible. What makes it all defensible is we have the solver audit trail. So we're able to see what the program decided to do item by item. You can see initially we're just asking the questions, does somebody want this? Here we can see the home theater system is sold off because nobody placed a competitive bid. The floor was better than what they had out there. We can also see if an asset was converted because it's too large. This one's a simple one, right? We can't give that music catalog to one person. It's worth $40 million. We take that sale price, which is $35 million in this case, and we're able to split it up as cash at this point. Now we're able to take that cash, pay off any liabilities, and we're also able to see if it can be split evenly. The solver says, yes, we can split it evenly. The judge's solver then makes sure that everything is done as appropriately as possible when considering, say, a judge's perspective or a third party's view of what those net worths are, bringing it back in so that if someone does have a wild expectation as to what the value may be, at least we're bringing it as reasonable as possible within the constraints of the system so that they didn't lose out on too much cash despite their optimism. And that's pretty much it. From there, you can take a look at individuals and how they feel about their shares. We'll take a quick look at that now and see if it makes the video. Once the beneficiaries have finished placing their bids and the person in charge, whether it's an executor or a professional, has run the solver, you are able to log back in and view the results. This is what they will see. They'll see a recap to start all the assets and their bids. So the value according to them and the good faith estimate as to what the value is. They will then see the assets that have been sold. It's kind of meant to start that conversation in case somebody has an issue with assets being sold. They can really take it up with someone at that point. But really the report for the executor or professional does give a good defense as to why those things needed to be sold. Here, beneficiary 1 can see what they were assigned and the cash that they received from something that has been sold, the total value from their point of view. They can also see the values of other people's based off of their own bids. So they're still not able to see the other person's bids at this time, but they are able to see what was assigned to them. And finally, we can see a good bar chart of the value that they've received compared to everybody else. A very simplified version, beneficiary 1 feels like they've gotten $9.2 million of value, whereas beneficiary 2 only got 8.7, beneficiary 3, 9,053,000, and beneficiary 4, 8.9 million. They are quite pleased with what they've received relative to what other people have received. Here's a quick summary as to what they got and why they might be happy about it. And that is all that should make it sufficient so that they feel good about it. And hopefully you're able to answer any additional questions they may have. Feel free to use that audit trail. It's a very powerful way of explaining, hey, something needed to be sold because it was too big, or maybe something was sold that was valuable to the family. Well, you could look at all the iterations that had happened prior to that sale of, hey, we're trying these different combinations of sales to generate cash before selling the family home. Unfortunately, it was something that we had to do to create enough liquidity for this family. But you will be able to see evidence of that iteration and that proof, and I hope that has given you a good high-level view of celestial divide. Goodbye for now, and talk again soon.